Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim, as he emerges from the trial by fire and then confronts the great tasks facing him in his country and the world. He's with us today, and I invite him to speak to all of us.
I was here 40 years ago, close. I don't like the reference to 40 years, probably about 4. I must have been about 2 years old when I came. And that was I was a student leader, second year in the university. That was quite an experience. The appeal was to the conscience. The appeal was the moral fiber. The appeal was to the heart. We were young. The appeal was, of course, to the spirit of the struggle. Demands, change the world, disgust with the hypocrisy of political leadership, the failure to act. We have great visionaries of the past, idealists. India's produced great names, and of course the most pronounced to my mind in recent times, of course, Mohandas Gandhi, whom we referred to Mahatma. So knowing Raj Mohan gave me this additional advantage that I feel associated with the Gandhi family. And soon afterwards, despite the intense campaign by them to moderate my tone, to be less radical, I didn't take their advice very seriously, because I thought the world's more complex than just compassion and forgiveness. So I went ahead with the struggle, tried to champion for the poor farmers, and got arrested under the Internal Security Act in 1974 without trial for 2 years. But there was also advantage. So I'm not here to relate to you the difficulties, the ordeals. Not that bad. No bitterness. Take it, move on. And because of that, I continue to work with the students and the youth, mainly asking for reform. I always talk about reform, institutional reform, governmental reform. I rose to become later the finance minister at the time when the economy was booming. We registered impressive growth, 9-10% a year, and considered an East Asian economic miracle. I was working extremely well with my then boss, Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir. But I've always talked about Renaissance, about change, about reform. And amplified in my book, The Asian Renaissance, published in 1996 when I was Finance Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, where I then organized a series of national, nationwide, even regional conferences, because you talk about struggle without a strong intellectual tradition. And more important, as what Gandhi has always remarked, it cannot be politically right if it is morally wrong. It cannot be morally right if it is politically wrong. So politics and morality must be, there must be synergy, must be one. And this, Rajmohan, you should know that I think, and Haridas, of course, have heard, and almost virtually in every campaign, you have this quote, you have this democracy is a great institution, but liable to be greatly abused. There's also another Gandhian quote. And of course, the most popular when you talk about economy is that the world is enough for every man's need, but never sufficient or enough for every man or every person's greed. So this was, our motto. It's a very strong, passionate message encapsulated in a very simple sentence. The great thing about our great thinkers, idealists, visionaries, people of conscience like Gandhi is that is not articulated in very complex philosophical treatise. A very simple message. So that, I think, I would claim, helped me immensely, even when I was Deputy Prime Minister. So when everyone in the world kept praising me, and I was then the Man of the Year by Newsweek, as the most successful or brilliant finance minister. But of course, they talk in terms of investments and market economy. I was talking about public housing and elevation of the rural standard of the rural poor. They were talking about successful banks. Of course, I supported that. But we had the biggest microcredit program for any developing country. So there is, of course, this then juxtaposition between my ideas and my then boss, Dr. Mahathir, and of course, as a result, before that, because between what we express as an ideal in democratic institutions and the reality falls the shadow. Remember T.S. Eliot, right? And that is essentially our problem. And we're talking to our brothers and sisters in the Arab Spring, which means a lot in the region. Do not underestimate their influence in this region, because in Malaysia, Indonesia, India, Pakistan, particularly among the Muslims, almost every single village, either the imam or the qadi or the teacher or the scholar of reference, must be some Egyptian somewhere. All right? So it has an impact. So it's important in as much as we learn from them, they also need to learn our experience. What is required? What is required, of course, a clear understanding. First is the conscience, is dictate of conscience. That, to my mind, is what is terribly lacking in politics, in civil society. Aruna was absolutely right when she asserted that the claim that civil society is therefore the answer is not necessarily true. Yeah? You must be the dictate of conscience. Either you use religion or humanitarian concerns, it must be that compel us to think differently. Second, to my mind, is the understanding. To assume that democracy is successful. Look at the United States. If we consider the Arab Spring actually is a mass movement demanding freedom and democracy. Occupy Wall Street is another mass movement that seems to be questioning or getting more cynical or disillusionment against the so-called democratic capitalistic order. Without sense or conscience, when you have this growing Gini coefficient or disparity from the very rich and the very poor, when moral considerations is completely absent when you deal with economic issues. And this is where I think rereading text of Gandhi is very relevant. I don't think Gandhi should be known as a great articuler of the economic policies or principles, but we take him as a great a man of conscience, a voice of conscience. Number one is the conscience. That's why when I was arrested in 1998, and thanks, I'm fortunate. People talk about difficulties. Anwar has this, black eye. I was badly assaulted, and it's a pleasure. I mean, I was not assaulted by this police sergeant. I was assaulted by number one police. So they do give me some recognition. they at least they observe the protocol. You don't get some cheap corporal or lance corporal to beat you up. They put some, at least they give me the due respect. Now, I got badly assaulted. I was actually it's near death because I was left in the lurch, no access to doctors. I must say this, not bitterness or hatred. You should respond lightly, humor. Stick to your ground, stick to your principles. When I was released after 6 years of solitary confinement, Well, I know, but still, it's not bad because I had a lot of reading to do. I have to complete not only the Quran, the Hadith, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, the Swami Vivekananda, the Tagore's works, voluminous. And I read the complete work of Shakespeare 4.5 times with copious notes. So it's not that bad after all, consider that, but so when I came, my first statement, I think this, Raj Mohan, you deserve that credit, because my first statement was, let's move on. Let's save this country. And I am now coming, official statement. I forgive the Inspector General of Police who beat me to near death. I forgive Dr. Mahathir, although I don't think Malaysians should forget. The dictate of your conscience is important. The compassion and the strength, the ability to move on, to be able to forgive. That's why it will be morality is something consistent. It must be morally consistent and must be coherent. And so that's one. Secondly is, of course, particularly among young friends who are involved, it must be intellectually or knowledge equipped, because these high-sounding words like civil society, market economy, democratic reforms, without real substance, can be a major hindrance to the real reform agenda. And finally, of course, the compassion that people count. I know. Look at me. What can I offer now for Malaysians? I've no pension. And I lost virtually everything. But people have showed so much affection and love. When the announcement about my acquittal day before, you have 1,000 outside the court just crying. I don't know them. I have no way to thank all of them. They came on their own volition. So how do you repay them? Is by honoring your commitment. But politicians are not known to be able to honor their commitment. I have great admiration for India. I think not many countries can produce great visionaries and leaders, including Mahatma Gandhi. But where is the ideal? Where is that compassion he talked about? Where the dictate of the conscience? Why is corruption so endemic? Why are institutions becoming more fragile? These are questions that we need to raise. Marginalization, poverty, and this abject poverty is not statistics and numbers. I was finance minister for 8 years. We talk about poverty. We have reduced from 15% to 12% and 12% to 10%. 10% can be 10 million people struggling to live. And this, I think, is what conscience is all about. Number 3, we can talk about religion. I differ with many of my secularist friends. It does not matter if there are Islamic parties wanting to establish Islamic State. They have every right to articulate their views. There's every right for the extreme liberal secular groups wanting to have a liberal society, but must do it with civility and get a free exchange among the people. Because once people have access, when they decided in Indonesia, the 95% Muslim country rejected the Islamist parties that want to establish an Islamic State. So don't ever underestimate the wisdom of the masses. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.